Hello my loves, welcome back to my channel and welcome to any new viewers who haven't seen my lovely face before. So for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Taysia. I'm 16 years old and I am a poet and a self-published author. I currently have 2 published poetry books, which include, this is my second one, Rough Nothing, and my first book, Blind Sight. Both are available on Amazon if you guys want to check those out, and I'll have the link in the description to do so. And if you are curious about what these books entail or just more information about them, obviously the description will be in Amazon, but I also have other videos specifically about them on my channel, so if you want to check those out, just go to my channel and they're all there for you to watch. But this video is not about those 2 books. As you can already tell by the title, I am currently working on a 3rd poetry book, which I've been working on for quite a while, and I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this book on my channel before, but I haven't gone into any detail about it because I wanted that to be a complete separate video, which is this one. So I guess this is my book reveal part 3. First, I'm just going to talk about a little bit of background information about this new book before I reveal it. I've been working on this book for quite some time. I'm not gonna lie, this book took me a lot longer to finish compared to my first 2 books, which only took about 6 months each. This one probably took me over a year to complete, and that is because I have had so many writer's block over the course of writing this book. Not really sure why, but my most recent writer's block was 5 months long, from May 2022 to October 2022, which is when I finally started writing again, and I swear I pretty much finished this book in 2 months. Majority of the poems in it were written in October, November, and December. During my writer's block, I could literally only write 2 to 5 poems a month, and I hated pretty much everything I was writing. It was a tough time. But basically I started working on this book in late 2021, I think. Originally working on another poetry book, which was a completely different theme or idea, and then I came up with this idea for this next book, and I was let's put a pause on this one and start working on a new one. So really, it was really up and down. That's why the timeline is really confusing, because I was working on 2 books and I was working on 1 book alongside with the book that I'm currently revealing to you guys. I'm also working on 3 others. I completed this book, and the other one that I was originally working on is still a work in progress, but it's going to be released later in 2023. But it's definitely still coming, so yeah. Now I'm going to get into a bit about what the book is about. And I just realized that I actually haven't said the title of the book whatsoever. I have said the title on other social media platforms like my Instagram and my TikTok when I'm saying oh, new book coming soon. But I don't think I said it on this channel. So my new book is going to be called Becoming Again, which is very different from my first 2 books. My first 2 books have very metaphorical titles, which is Blind Sight and Rough Nothing, very metaphorical. Unless you ask me what those titles really mean, you probably wouldn't pick up on it. But the theme of this book is exactly what the title sounds like. So basically what Becoming Again is about is, it's basically just about finding yourself, healing, and putting yourself first and just living for yourself, which, just like my other books, it's very relative to mental health and healing and self-growth, self-help, all of that stuff. All my poetry books are going to be like that, basically. Just mainly about living for yourself and putting yourself first and enjoying life for yourself and not for others. It's really ironic that I'm really bad at explaining things, considering I'm a writer, but just for the purpose of the video, I'm just gonna read the official book description so you guys can really get an idea of what this book is about. Okay, so here's the official book description that's gonna be listed on the Amazon listing, just so you guys can get an idea of what the book is really about. And I'm just reading it off my iPad. Becoming Again is a collection of poems related to the journey of coming back to oneself. The chapters take you on a journey of what it means to grow and transform into your best self from past trauma and finding happiness within yourself and life. The sections of this book are meant to represent the phases of a butterfly, their growth, transformation, and rebirth. If you find yourself becoming, falling, or rising, this book was made to help you gain your wings and be reborn into a life you're meant to live. I haven't actually read out loud my book description before, and it's actually really cute. The theme, obviously that is the plot of the book. The theme of the book is butterflies and the transformation. Becoming, again, has 4 sections, which I'm pretty sure my other books have like 5 sections, but that's besides the point. This book has 4 sections to it, and each like relates to a part of the journey of like coming back to yourself, which again, the theme of the book. The way the chapters are organized is to like represent the phases of a butterfly, which I just mentioned, which is the metaphor that I basically used throughout the book. I'm gonna like explain what each chapter is. The first chapter, or the first section, is called Becoming. This is basically what it is. I'm gonna read the description. This section is a gray area where life feels dark, but seeing life for what it has the potential to be. This is a hope embedded in your heart, but locked away because of past hurts. If you feel stuck in life and feel its weight, this chapter was written for you in all its waves of its entity. It's a very metaphorical description, but basically it's like a point in your life where you're like, yeah, I can see things getting better, but it's like all your past trauma, your past hurt, everything that has like broken you down over life is like really weighing on you, and you're like almost scared to move forward, but like you see the potential that your life has. I'm pretty sure everyone has been at that point in your life. It doesn't even have to be mental health related. It could just be like, you know, I got this job, I'm super excited for it, but I'm really nervous it's not gonna work out. Like it's like that, like being so certain about something, but you still have like that fear in the back of your head that's like, what if it doesn't work out? The second chapter or section of this book is called Falling, and here's the official description. This section is a part of healing that we don't say out loud. The moments when darkness overtakes the light, the overwhelming doubt that may consume you despite feeling life's radiance. If you are feeling hopeless or that the storm may never pass, this section was written for you. Now, for those of you that don't really understand metaphors, because I feel like that was, again, very metaphorical, it's basically the part after becoming, where you like have this doubt in the back of your mind. It's like when that doubt comes forward, something happens that just breaks you, and then you're like, wow, life is really, like, it sucks. And you're just like stuck in that mindset that things aren't gonna get better. Like you're broken down yet again, and it just feels like nothing's ever gonna get better type of thing, where you're like, your mental health or whatever you're experiencing in your life just kind of overtakes, and then all that hope and all that positive energy you had is just gone. The third section of the book is called Rising, which is, you know, falling, rising. It's pretty much the opposite, but here's the actual description. This section is the overcoming of the fall, the unblurring of your vision and hopeful bliss of growth. This is where self-love, coming back to yourself, prospers. If you are feeling the shift within yourself from darkness to overwhelming light, this chapter was written for you. I feel like that one's pretty straightforward, but it's basically like the rising after your fall, like the becoming chapter, except more. Your life is just like, you know, it's getting there and you're finding yourself again, slowly but surely. Like you're not there yet, but you know, things are getting better type of thing. And the last chapter is called Rebirth, and here's the description. This section is what healing is for. All the transforming, falling, and rising to be where life has always had the potential to be, and the potential you have always seen. It is the becoming to be. If you see life for all its beauty, even in pain, if you're still growing, this chapter is for you. About being reborn into your inner self. Simpler words, it's basically the first chapter where it's like you're becoming, except you're there. You're seeing life to the fullest, even if you're still experiencing bad things in your life, if you're still hurting. Like, basically, like the theme of the book is, you know, coming back to yourself and living for yourself. It's that, where you're finally living for yourself. Like, you're still experiencing life challenges and getting hurt and whatnot, but you're seeing it in a more positive light than you would have before in your healing journey, where you're like, yep, it happens, and you're still moving forward, you're living for yourself, you're living your best life, taking everything life has to offer and making it the best that you can. So moving on, that is like basically everything that the book is. But now I'm going to talk a little bit about like the process of making this book, just really quickly. I've been working on this book for a while, and it's been a very long process, a very painful process, because I know that this book is going to be absolutely amazing and I cannot wait to release it. But there was times where I was like, bro, this book is not going to be good, or especially when I was in my writer's block, like it really beat me down. I want to kind of explain my process up to this point, but basically the first part of my process with writing my book was choosing a plot and theme, which sounds very simple, but it's really not, because when you're an author who has like multiple books, like these two books, they go together. Like the second book was pretty much like a second addition to this one. It had the same idea, the same plot, just slightly different. So with this book, I was trying to make it like a completely separate thing. Like I wasn't trying to create a series. I just kind of wanted another poetry book with a completely different theme, which was a lot harder than I thought, because yeah, that was the first thing I had to do, was choose a plot, choose a theme, and work with it. And then obviously I already explained what the plot and theme was, but that was the first process to writing this book. The second thing I had to do was figure out my chapters, which is where the whole butterfly type thing came in, where I wanted to relate the chapters to the theme of a butterfly. So like it really related to the theme, because you want to make sure that your chapters make sense to the plot and the theme. So it was like getting those two connected. So that's kind of how the whole butterfly thing came about. And the third thing I had to do was make the cover art. I make all my book covers myself. These two made myself. This one was very more like artistic. This one was just line art, because I really like the like simplistic look. This book, I haven't showed the cover yet. I guess I'll do that. Here's the cover art. So it's kind of like both of my previous books combined. Like it's still line art, but like more dramatic, I guess. Yeah, so making the cover art is very important, making sure that it relates to the themes, which as you can see there's butterflies, and then the whole thing about the plot, like coming back to yourself, and like, yeah, basically coming back to yourself. That's kind of like what the girl like undressing her skin is like. It's like, you know, shedding yourself of all your past blah blah blahs and then coming back to yourself. That's basically what that means. The fourth thing with my process was like figuring out the actual content in the book, which is like the most important part, because like that's what people are going to be reading. Content isn't even just about the poems, it's also about like the illustrations and like any cool things I wanted to include, like how some people have like spaces for you to like journal in it, like figuring out the content. And for this book, I decided to just go with poems and a few illustrations. So figuring out like what I want my chapter pages to look like. Also like if I want to put my chapter descriptions in the book or not. Just figuring out what I want to be inside the book, and like how thick I want to be the book, and how many poems I want. In this book, it's gonna have 100 poems, which is the same as my first two, but I'm also gonna get to that because that's a whole another topic. The fifth thing is obviously making the content, which is the longest part of making a book, which unfortunately took me probably about a year to actually do the whole inner content stuff. Probably the funnest part. It's like the hardest part, but the easiest part. It's a conflicting time. Sixth thing, like getting an ISBN, which is like the number that you typically see on the inside of a book after the copyright, or no, within the copyright. I did that pretty early on, like before I really even started writing, because I self-published through KDP, which is Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing. So yeah, I did that pretty early on. The final step is revealing and publishing, which is what I'm doing right now, is revealing my book, letting the public know that it's going to be out soon. Some further details about my book is that there's going to be a second edition to this book, be like an exclusive version, quote unquote. Basically what that means is this book is just going to be a plain poetry book like my first two, and it's only going to have 100 poems like my first two books. So then basically this second poetry book, it's going to have, quote unquote, exclusive poems, so I'm going to add more poems to the book. But that's not the only thing about the second edition. The second edition book is also going to be almost like a journal type thing, where some poems on the page beside it, it's gonna have a journal prompt for you to write on. The journal prompt will be related to whatever poem is on the other page, and then it'll just like help you journal. And especially for anyone that's like on their healing journey, it's perfect. Especially if you're like, you want to journal and you're like, you want to start writing, but you just don't really know what to start, or like, you know, sitting down every day and journaling is really hard for you, because that's something that's really hard for me, to just sit down and write about my day. Having journal prompts, especially when you're healing, is a really good tool. So then you have like somewhere to start. So the second edition is going to have like exclusive poems, and it's going to have journal prompts. More further detail about the book is my personal opinion on it. That's a good question. I haven't really thought about my personal opinion on it. I think it's a very good book. Obviously, I'm the writer. I wouldn't publish something that I didn't think was good. I think it's like, I talk about a lot of topics that like we don't speak about out loud, which is what I really like about my poetry. It's like you get to feel less alone, because we don't talk about mental health very much, especially within the Black community. So it's really nice to like have an author and like read about things that everyone experiences but we don't talk about, and just feel less alone in that sense. My favorite parts this is more further details. My favorite parts about the book is definitely like the illustrations. There's a lot of illustrations that I've done that I'm like, wow, that is so pretty. There's also a lot of poems that are like my favorite poems in the book. They're very metaphorical and very real, and like you know when you read a poem and it's like you feel it in your heart like that. That's definitely my favorite part. And also the way that I wrote the book, like with all my writer's block and how I got out of my writer's block, I think it was a very authentic, a very beautiful way to get back into writing. Because for the longest time I was like, bro, I don't know if I can do writing anymore, and I was like really doubting myself and my poetry and saying like maybe I can't make it as an author, which is like the worst feeling for someone that is very into writing and wants to help people with their mental health, because that's always what my writing has been about. That's how I decided to publish my first book, was I wanted to help other people through my words. And the amount of compliments and feedback that I've gotten from people about my writing, saying that my writing is very mature and that my writing is super good, especially for someone my age. This video is a lot longer than I intended it to be. That's pretty much all I have to say for this video. I am going to make more videos about this book and my upcoming books and just my writing in general and my writing processes. If you guys have any like video requests, comment down below, or if you have any other video ideas that you think would be a good addition to my channel, also leave those down below. Always open to new suggestions and more video ideas. So I am extremely excited to finally publish this book after so long. Which I will have a set date for when it's going to be published in a few weeks, maybe a couple days, we'll see. But soon I'm going to have a set publish date, and it will be available for pre-orders. If you want to hear more about my poetry books and just updates about this poetry book, or you know, just want to see me more often, then don't forget to follow me on my other socials, such as my TikToks and my Instagram. And I will be talking about my book more on this channel, and I'm really trying to post more. My last video was posted a month ago, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the bell notification so that you do know when I post. And that's basically the end of this week's video, and I can't wait to see you guys in my next video, and I can't wait for you guys to see my book. Bye, my loves!